All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. I guess we're considering this show kind of the weekend wrap up. I was on for Prager yesterday, have been all week. And thank you guys for listening and sending your messages and your well wishes. I certainly do appreciate that. Continue to pray for Dennis Prager and his complete and total healing. There has been, he is recuperating. That it is an extremely long process. Just being completely blunt with you guys, and the type of injury that he sustained, it's just going to take him a while to recuperate. I mean, you're talking months. So we appreciate your patience with that, and thank you guys so much for continuing to listen to the show. Some of you for following me, really appreciate that, and please do so. X, Instagram, Facebook primarily is where you can find me on social media at Carl Jackson Show, at The Carl Jackson Show. And please subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channel, The Carl Jackson Show. Guys, so much has happened this week. I just wanted to touch on it. I wanted to make sure that this podcast was out here for you to listen to in case you missed me on Dennis Prager's show. But today we're going to go over how to fix the FBI. The J6 pipe bomber cover up continues. The latest on the terrorist attack in New Orleans, and also the latest on that what I thought was a terrorist attack in Nevada. It turns out there's another theory that's emerging after more information that has come in that the guy in Nevada that blew up the Cybertruck was likely not a terrorist at all, but committing suicide and trying to send a message after going through some personal struggles. So we will talk about that. The speaker fight is over. Mike Johnson has been reelected speaker. And listen, I was okay. Thomas Massie ended up not voting for him. And I know a lot of people are frustrated with Thomas Massie. I get it. But I don't mind representatives pushing the issue to make sure we get back to regular order. It seems though Thomas Massie wasn't going to vote for him regardless of that. However, others fell in line, Chip Roy and others, and that made the difference. And listen, I'm a big fan of Chip Roy. I frankly think he is probably one of the best, if not the, actually we have some really good ones, but one of the best congressmen that's really fighting for your issues. It's not about gamesmanship or ego for him. What he wanted was just a return to regular order, and what he also wanted is basically you would vote on 12 appropriation bills throughout the year. You would have a debate, and that way, and he wanted Republicans to be able to be the deciders on which big bills are obviously brought to the floor and voted upon, because that's the only way they're going to be able to cut spending, because Democrats are always going to try to get their pound of flesh or fight for what's in their best interest. And if this is truly going to be the Trump agenda, what Trump is going to have to do is he's going to have to cut some spending in order to fight inflation, and he's going to have to grow the economy. Actually, it's stagflation, because we do have inflation and we do have slowed growth. So I respect what Chip Roy did, and I'm also glad that they all came aboard before the 6th, because Donald Trump has to be ready to go. So the speaker fight is over. Mike Johnson is the speaker, reelected as the speaker. But there's a wrench in the plans. Judge Juan Merchan, that evil prick. And this is a guy who I believe is in it for sheer, you talk about ego. I think this is ego and pride. All of these cases, these lawfare cases against Donald Trump, fell flat. They totally backfired on every single one of these fools. And now Juan Merchan says he's going to go ahead and sentence President-elect Trump, soon to be President Trump, again, because he can do that. I mean, just damn the SCOTUS decision that gives presidents, not Trump, that gives presidents a certain amount of immunity, and not to mention when you're talking about a case like is this I believe this is the hush money case, which is it's a non-disclosure agreement case. That means every single congressman in, not every single, but the vast majority of congressmen probably should be brought up on charges. Every businessman in New York should be brought up on charges. This is a scam. This hasn't happened before. This is about ego, and this is about being able to label Donald Trump a convicted felon. So we're going to go through these pretty rapidly. I do want to start with this because there's more news. The latest on these terrorist attacks, specifically in New Orleans. This was preventable. This guy Jabbar, he posted videos on Facebook. We come to find out now that he literally he thought about killing his family members, but that wouldn't have had the media impact that he wanted. The guy was radicalized by Islam. He was influenced by ISIS. That is why he committed the heinous act of terror that he did. You had originally the FBI coming out and saying, "Oh, it wasn't a terrorist attack." And at first, I was like, "Man, these people are just dumb." And then somebody questioned me online. I'm like, "Okay, that's a fair alternative. Hey, maybe she was just given a script until they figured." I was like, "Listen, I think it's wrong, but maybe that's possible." And now I'm all, no. These fools knew from the get-go, and anybody with a modicum of common sense did, and that it was a terrorist attack because the guy told you it was a terrorist attack when he decided to use his rented vehicle to run over people. And then he had the ISIS flag hoisted on his truck. Like, come on. This is absolutely insane. So we're going to dive into this. But, Gabe, let's go ahead and roll with this video profile of Ann Kirkpatrick. I think you said it was number 14, the latest one that you just downloaded. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and run it. Let me set the tone. This is Ann Kirk, the superintendent, chief, whatever, of the New Orleans Police Department. Let me give you a little background. This chick was fired from Oakland because she sucks. If you guys don't Oakland, Sacramento, San Francisco, Northern California is some of the most beautiful country that you will ever see. Not necessarily within the cities, although San Francisco used to be, but they started hiring or electing these mayors and these woke freaking sheriffs and and all this kind of stuff to run their towns. Well, Ann Kirkpatrick was one of them in Oakland. Oakland used to be a nice city, and it had its troubled areas like everyone else. But she was so bad, eventually the chick got fired. Apparently, I didn't realize this, but she settled a lawsuit for $1 million or plus bucks, $1 million or $2 million bucks eventually because she was fired. But this lady is woke as can be. She is a complete and utter DEI hire herself. She is a white liberal. Carl, how do you know that? I'm gonna show you some evidence here, or talk about some evidence. This lady literally teaches DEI instructions not just to the local New Orleans Police Department, but also the local FBI field agents. It's insane. These people are incapable of stopping a terrorist attack, because if a terrorist ends up being Muslim or as an Islamist or black or Latino or any type of minority, they're going to give the terrorists the benefit of the doubt rather than the victims. Let's play this video clip, because you're going to be astonished by this. Based on this video clip alone, I'm so sorry for the 14 people that were murdered by this terrorist, Jabbar. So sorry. Every single one of those people should sue the crap out of New Orleans, sue the crap out of that police department, the local FBI, and the mayor. Let's go ahead and roll that video. If you haven't heard this video, your jaws are about to drop. This was preventable. Roll it, por favor, Gabe.
What you see behind us is what we call hardening the target. So we have brought in heavy trucks. You will see when you go down Bourbon, you will see yellow, what we call archers, and they're along the sidewalk. And that would be to be preventive if someone had, or if this particular terrorist went around up on the sidewalk. That's what that would do. Okay, it would slow that down for anyone who thought that they could breach our targets. And so those are some of the main differences. We are done in the quarter. Also, you are going to see an incredibly large presence of police. And we are, though, confident, but we want our community to feel confident and know they are confident, police safe. And that's what we're going to do. So right now, I can declare to you
Watch this.
that Bourbon Street is
Chief, if I have one question, please.
sorry.
Yellow archers, where do they come from?
Actually, we have them. I didn't know about them, but we have them. And so we have been able now to put them.
Chief.
Did you? I didn't even notice this, Kate. Did you see the other chick on the side that was like, no more, questions, no questions. And then the dumb chief answers the question, and she's like, you could see it on her face, like, oh my God. Okay, so what the New Orleans Police Department chief admitted to was that they had the protective barriers all along to be able to protect those citizens that were murdered by the Islamic terrorist Jabbar. All along. She didn't know that. She's the chief of police. Now, they have a sugar bowl. The sugar bowl was being hosted that day by New Orleans. It was supposed to occur the day that the Islamic terrorists, and I'm saying that on purpose because, guys, I'm not so certain that Americans are ready for this new type of terrorism, and I am trying to shout it out from the rooftops. We have to be ready for this. Everybody thinks it's going to be another 9/11 or some major event. What if it's not another 9/11? What if it's simply doing acts like this where people are lone wolves, but they bow down to Allah, they're Islamic terrorists, and they're just out to get you? You may be anywhere. You could be sitting in the movie theater. You could be walking down the street. And I'm not trying to stroke fear into your hearts, but what I am trying to tell you is understand that this threat exists and understand that we have an external threat by the name of China that I believe is our biggest threat, but we have an internal threat, in my opinion, thanks to the Biden-Harris administration, where all of a sudden we're fighting Islamic terrorists again. We have a wide open border. There's no telling how many of them came in. There's no telling how many of them were imported by the Biden-Harris administration, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and General Milley, when they brought in 70 plus thousand, I believe, Afghanistans that they did not vet into our country. They weren't even necessarily the ones that were helping out our soldiers. Are you freaking kidding me? And this lady admits that they had temporary barriers because they were waiting for the construction. They took down the old ones that they had that would have protected the people on the sidewalks. They took those down. They were waiting for new ones to be installed. But meanwhile, while they were waiting for the new ones, these temporary yellow archers, as they're called, were available. She didn't know it. There's a reason why she didn't know it. Let me just go ahead and get into this real quick, and then I want to get into the latest on this J6 pipe bomber. Oh, and also the latest on the terrorist, what I thought was a terrorist attack in Nevada. I may be wrong. There's some new prevailing theories coming out that I want to make sure that I talk to you about, and it may just be, as crazy as it sounds, it may just be a coincidence that both Leibelsberger, which was the guy that I assumed was a terrorist, as well. And I told you I was very scared because this guy was a special forces guy, Green Beret. So I was like, dude, if they turn against us, I mean, that is a lot scarier. But that does not seem to be the case now. So I'll give you some new information when it comes to that. But first, let me do this just real quick. There was an article or a column in the Daily Wire that I just want to talk about really quickly here. And I'm just going to prove to you, this lady, this chief, she's a DEI hire because she's a woke liberal. And then so is the FBI chick. As a matter of fact, Gabe, let's play that one again too. Just whenever you're ready, let me know when it's ready. And it's the FBI chick with the nose earring saying that it's not a terrorist attack. And I'm sorry, it's hard for me to read it while I'm sitting here scrolling through. Okay. All right. So let's hold out on that, and then let me share this, and then I want Gabe to share that video again, por favor. All right. So the New Orleans Police Department and the city's FBI field office, hat tip to the Daily Caller, are staunch advocates for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those same agencies are the ones that are investigating the terrorist attack that killed at least 14 people, 15 people, if you include the terrorist himself, Jabbar, and the numbers might go up because dozens of others, I believe it was over 35, were injured as a result of that terrorist attack, that Islamic terrorist attack. And yes, I'm intentionally calling it an Islamic terrorist attack. And if you're woke, you're going to die. I mean, if you want to sit here and believe that is Islam is the same or equivalent as a Jew Judeo-Christian values, I'm sorry, you have another thing coming. They do not believe the same thing. You have to hope and pray that they're carnal and they're basically not hardcore adherents to their faith. Because if they are hardcore adherents to their faith, you're going to see more terrorist attacks. It's as simple as that. And if you don't believe it, oh, Carl, please, you're just no. You're just naive. I'm sorry. All right, so these people, do you really believe people that are hyped up or drugged up, metaphorically speaking, on DEI are going to be able to correctly ascertain who's a terrorist if a terrorist happens to be brown skin or a woman, or you know what I'm saying? This is what makes DEI is deadly. Let me put it that way. It is deadly. So this FBI field office, the FBI, had aggressively promoted diversity initiatives on social media, especially in its recruitment. All right. A press release from May 2024 stated that the Bureau would hold listen to this, a diversity agent recruitment event, so DAR, to aid in their search for applicants with diverse backgrounds, skills, opinions, and perspectives. Now, having said that, Gabe, please, let's roll video clip number 1 again, just to remind the people this lady more than likely is a DEI hire who came out and initially said this was not a terrorist attack. I called her at the time the Kareem Jean-Pierre of the FBI, and I'm sticking with it. I guarantee you this is a diversity hire. Roll it, por favor, Gabe.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found, and we are working on confirming if it's a viable device or not. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street to St. Anne. That is my ask. Once again, stay away from Bourbon Street, Canal Street, all the way to St. Anne until we can figure out what is going on. Our goal is to provide you additional information at the 11 a.m. press conference. Thank you so much, and we will be in touch.
Yes. I will say that we want our community and our visitors to continue enjoying. There's so much to enjoy about New Orleans, and we are going to make sure that our routes in the Superdome are safe today for the game, and yet we had this tragic event, and we're sorry again to everyone in our community. But we do want you to go about the day, as we say, just stay away from Bourbon, okay?
All right. I mean, and I didn't even think about this, but just the video that you just watched. I mean, think about it. You have, hey, Carl Jackson here for My Pillow. My Pillow is excited to announce their extravaganza, and it's finally here, even extending beyond the Christmas season. You can get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, but hurry up because they won't last long. Get them while they last. They're famous My Slippers. These haven't been on sale for over a year. They're regularly priced at $119.98, but for you, they're $59.98, but for a limited time only. And their 6-piece towel sets are back in stock as well, with extremely limited quantities, however, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone to choose from bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-858-0263. Be sure to use the promo code Carl to save on all of your MyPillow product purchases. That's promo code Carl, C-A-R-L. Flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. The 6-piece towel set for just $29.98. And that's not all. MyPillow has extended their 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free. All right, MyPillow.com, promo code Carl. This Barney Fife of a police chief, the female version. You have this woke FBI FBI agent or spokesman or whatever she may be wearing a nose ring in her ear against FBI regulation. And then you have the mayor, Latoya Cantrell, or Latanya Cantrell, forgive me, I forget at this particular time, but Mrs. Cantrell or Ms. Cantrell that was being investigated for corruption. And beyond that, I mean, literally was overseeing the United States, the murder capital of the United States at one particular point a couple of years ago. Those numbers have gone down apparently by 20%, but I just wonder if they're fudging the numbers. Just being real with you, I don't know. This is just my opinion, but you can always categorize different crimes as different things in order to make your numbers look, your numbers look good, or they can do what a lot of these wokesters and these blue cities are doing, and they're simply not arresting people for certain crimes anymore. That could be happening there, and frankly, I suspect that is what's happening in New Orleans, if you were to, again, ask me. But these people, again, teach diversity, equity, and inclusion in their classes. The division social media accounts are full with advertisements, according to the Daily Signal, for diversity recruitment, with one post encouraging, listen to this, minorities and women who qualify. Were you confident in that visual that you just saw? The Barney Fife female version, the woke FBI agent, and Latanya Cantrell, or Mayor Cantrell. Let me just say it that way. Forgive me. I'm not intentionally trying to forget her name. I just literally forget if it's Latoya or Latanya, and I'm not going to go bother to look it up right now. But honestly, just look at them. Do you feel safe with those people in charge? I wouldn't. There was a strong FBI looking dude right in the background. Frankly, for the sake of presence, I would have made him speak. I would have had him speak. Because you want to project strength. None of those ladies project strength. None of them do. Now, I'm not saying that any lady can. And honestly, I'm not saying that these ladies are necessarily dumb, although the police chief does strike me as that. I'm sure like that FBI lady, she didn't seem dumb by any stretch of the imagination. But what she did seem is incompetent and probably unqualified for the job that she has. And that's where, DEI gets you, and it's deadly. Another post from June 2024 says the agency is, quote, committed to fostering diversity and inclusion by hiring special agents from a variety of unexpected backgrounds. How about just hiring agents that are qualified to do the job? I mean, how about that? A July 2021 post captioned, "The value of diversity celebrates Near and Middle East Heritage Month." So if they're celebrating Near and Middle East Heritage Month, and the name that they hear of the suspect happens to be a Muslim sounding name, do you think they're going to be quick to say, if these people are woke, that was a terrorist, an Islamic terrorist? Do you think they're going to say that? All of these woke ladies? No, they're not. And this is exactly why I wouldn't trust a word coming out of their mouths. And this is exactly why DEI in every facet has to end. DEI is not only making us dumber, it's making us less safe. It's sad. Several other posts celebrates Black History, Women's History, LGBT Pride Months. How about just celebrating catching some freaking bad guys? I think that would be good. Additionally, NOPD Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick, AKA, now people are saying she looks more like the granny on Beverly Hills Billies, and that is accurate. She serves as an instructor. Listen to this. Not just for the New Orleans Police Department, but for the FBI's Law Enforcement Executive Association's Leadership Training Program. So for the Leadership Training Program in the FBI, local FBI field office, the chief of the police, not the FBI, the chief of the police serves as the Law Enforcement Executive Association's Leadership Training Program, where she instructs officers on subjects including, but not limited to, bias and diversity, emotional intelligence, and leading generations. Did you hear anything about enforcing the law and catching bad guys in this? That Barney Fife looking chick, acting chick, is training leaders in the local FBI. Are you freaking kidding me? She didn't even know that temporary barriers existed. Kirkland also served as chief of the Oakland Police, as I've shared, where she implemented equity-based decision making. Equity-based decision making. What the hell is that? Oh, let me see. Black dude commits a crime. But he probably came from a lower income community. We got to cut him some slack. I'm just wondering. Freaking insane. Freaking insane. And then, all right, so that was a terrorist attack. That was a terrorist attack committed by that guy, Jabbar. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. The guy was radicalized by Islam. It is. I don't think it's been confirmed, but I believe, at least it is believed that he traveled to Egypt sometime in 2024 for 10 days, where maybe he got some training. I don't know, but that is a tactic that ISIS uses, running over people with cars. The goal is to kill anybody any way you can. And you want to make sure that you're a threat. You want to terrorize people, right? So you want to get people thinking about, hey, don't go here, don't do this. You're not safe anywhere. That's what it was. What was occurring. But thank God, the police officers in New Orleans ran to the battle and shot that guy dead. Literally before he could get off too many shots, once he had already ran over and murdered at least 14 people. So anyway, so that's that. Now, here's the latest, just real quick. Let me bring you up to speed. Now, we all thought that these guys had to have been connected. This guy, Jabbar, was an IT guy, apparently in the, I believe it was in the Army, but he was on Fort Bragg. The other gentleman, no, not the other gentleman, excuse me. Well, I do believe, excuse me, Leibelsberger, the special forces guy. I do believe he was a gentleman, but apparently he was having some issues at home. So we thought they were all connected. I thought they were all connected, and none of this stuff is definitive. But this is a theory, and a more plausible theory. It may just be a coincidence, literally, that these guys rented from the same rental place. These guys both, served on Fort Bragg. However, they didn't know each other. Apparently, there was a short period of time where they were on the base together, but apparently their squads never, really interacted. And forgive me because I don't know the proper military lingo. Okay, but they didn't seem to interact. It turns out, sadly, that this guy Leibelsberger, and let me pull this up to you, because as I was rolling into Dennis Prager's show yesterday, his producer Alan Estrin has sent me the updated information, and let me just pull it up real quick, because I want to make sure that I am accurate with this. But a new possible motive had occurred, and basically the guy committed suicide, and he wasn't a Trump hater. The guy in Nevada, his uncle said he loved Trump. His wife didn't like Trump, and he was going through marital problems. And he was also suffering from what the military calls PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because he had been in so many battles overseas. And he was also stationed at Germany. He's an active soldier. He was special forces, Green Beret. That's why I was so scared. I was like, if this dude is turning on us, but apparently he wasn't. But he did want to send a message, apparently, to Trump, and he thought that was the best way to get his message out, apparently using Elon Musk's Cybertruck to blow up the truck, although now information is emerging that he may have used that because he really didn't want it to be a big he didn't want it to be a big bang after all. So we were all wondering, oh, this guy just made makeshift bombs. And I sat there thinking fireworks, gasoline cans. Hey, you know what? Maybe he just figures if I get enough of these things together, it could explode. But it may be that he never intended for that vehicle to have such a blast, that he intended for it to just set ablaze. He shot himself before the fire or whatever it was, the explosive was detonated. But apparently, he may have thought that the fire would have been contained to that vehicle, which is probably why he used that vehicle. So here's the background. Apparently, he was going through marital issues. So this guy had been in numerous gun battles in the Middle East, several deployments overseas, several deployments into the Middle East. He was stationed in Germany at the time. He comes back from Germany, and I want to say a day after Christmas or one day before Christmas, and his wife accuses him of infidelity. The wife of the Army hat tip red state, the wife of the Army soldier who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump International Hotel in Vegas when they broke up with him 6 days before he killed himself inside the vehicle, according to law enforcement. Matthew Leibelsberger left his Colorado Springs home the day after Christmas following an argument with his wife over apparent infidelity. Two sources familiar with the investigation told the New York Post. His wife, who had a baby daughter with Leibelsberger, reportedly told him that she knew he had been cheating, according to the sources. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is speculation, but at least this is what's being reported. So this takes the investigation in a different way. That puts a bit of a different spin, red state states, on his family life. Before this report, all we had were smiling pictures of him and his wife, with the reasonable assumption being they were still together. But if she left him over infidelity, that would go a long way in providing a reason for him to be suicidal. So if this guy was already stressed over all of his overseas visits, being, special forces, Green Beret, you guys know, obviously this guy has seen stuff that we can only imagine and hope to never see. And he's seen it on numerous occasions. He was a Trump supporter. We now know his wife was not a Trump supporter. So it makes sense. He committed suicide before he detonated the explosives, the fireworks, the gasoline, all that kind of stuff that he had inside of that Cybertruck. And perhaps he just wanted it to be contained. And there's speculation that also, if he was going to go out, he wanted to bring some attention to the fact that many veterans out there are suffering, whether it's, suffering with PTSD. And think about the VA just sucks. They don't get the proper help that they should at many of these VA offices. The multiple deployments away from their families. So perhaps that theory is emerging that he used that Cybertruck and parked it in front of the Trump International Hotel because he wanted to make sure that his story was heard and that other troops are getting the help that they need so that they're not destroying themselves, destroying their families, chilling. But that just puts a different spin on it. If we hear anything new, obviously, I will share that with you. All right, J6 pipe bomb cover. Actually, before we get to that, I do want to play a couple more videos because I want you to be aware. And again, I know this is uncomfortable hearing. Some of you don't want to hear it. Some of you might think I'm a bigot, so on, etc. No, I'm just being real with you. I'm being honest. And a lot of people aren't going to be honest. But Islam is a serious threat. Guys, we remember, please, if you remember 9/11, you remember watching the video of ISIS. And what the left has tried to do is they've tried to make you believe that white supremacists are the biggest threat to the United States of America. And it's all because the mainstream media and the deep state hated Trump. But nothing could be further from the truth. I'm going to give you a second here. Name the latest, biggest white supremacist attack on the United States of America. Go ahead. Oh, J6 is all you came up with? J6 that we now know was hyped up by Liz Cheney, by Nancy Pelosi, and all of these people were literally, they're still arresting people, 1,600 people up to date, most of whom never even entered the Capitol and at best would have had trespassing charges. That's the best you can come up with when literally you had the Weather Underground, a Democrat organization, and you had the what was it? The Puerto Rican, I forget what it was called. Another Democrat organization that literally attacked it. One bombed the Capitol, another one, the Puerto Rican terrorist organization that literally went inside of the Capitol and shot and murdered some police officers inside of there. Really? Are you kidding me? You've never been told about those, right? They just want to point you towards J6, where we now know there were undercover FBI agents trying to stoke the flames of fire there, or at least, all right, that is my speculation. They were there. And you can't convince me that they weren't there to try to incite people, Trump supporters, to try to rush into the Capitol so that they could get their, so that they could get the political theatrics that they wanted. And I'll prove that to you in just a sec. But I do want you to be aware of the Islamic threat. Here's Sarah Adams. Sarah Adams used to be a CIA. She was with the CIA. I've interviewed her before. I want to play this real quick. This is and she helped out the guys in Benghazi. Basically, I think she was in charge of logistics, setting up different, wherever these guys had to travel to go do America's business, she was responsible for kind of helping to supervise, if I recall correctly, the logistics in those particular areas, giving them what they needed, helping them understand geography, so on, etc. Anyway, so here's video clip number 13. Roll this real quick, por favor, Gabe. I want you to understand there is a threat inside of the United States of America. That is an Islamic threat. And that's on top of Tren de Aragua and all those type of things. All these dangerous people that Joe Biden and his staff have led into the country. On top of that, the ISIS is re-emerging as a result of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, all of these people, Democrats that were for open borders. Video clip number 13, please, Gabe.
I just want to clarify. You are 100% certain that there are 1,000 plus Al-Qaeda trained fighters within the United States borders?
Well, Al-Qaeda says they trained and deployed 1,000 for this attack. First off, I think there's more than 1,000 Al-Qaeda members in the United States. But for the Homeland attack, that number is based on what Al-Qaeda is saying, so they could exaggerate it. However, they did have about 1,400 in the Hamas attack, so the number is not off from what they did in the first round of attacks.
Is there any indication of what kind of attacks these are going to be? Actually, before we get into that, how old is this information?
I mean, it's ongoing. So the training's already done, right? So all the training info is now old because they trained all the Homeland attackers, if that makes sense. So like next week, you're not going to get info of a Homeland attacker probably at a terrorist camp because it's already done. So all this has been in the last year.
So it's been over a year. It's been a year.
Because this was a continuation, so they planned October 7th first, and then they rolled into planning this after.
Are we next, or is Europe next?
I think the embassy attacks are next, in my opinion.
What are they waiting for the embassies?
I don't think they're waiting. I think it took time to train them. They've now approved them, and they've now moved into the operational stage. You've seen these. So the concept is the terrorist fights to the death. So he's not exactly a suicide bomber, but he will fight till either all of us are dead or all of his people are dead, right? So this can go on for multiple days, like the plan was for Mumbai, for example. So we think it's going to be a swarming attack, right? Multiple different attacks at one time across multiple cities. We think there will be suicide bombings just because some of the attackers went through suicide bomber training and they have these vests, right? And then we think there's these Fideian attackers who will carry on until they're killed. The Fideian matters, right? I was watching, I want to say it was like 8 months ago.
Let me just rephrase that. So these guys are trained, and we already overlaid the video of their training, and they are going to fight until they're killed.
Yes.
There's no stopping them.
Exactly. And that matters, right? So I was watching this video, and it was a suicide bombing in Kabul years ago. And it was the bomber blew up, okay? And then everyone starts moving in. The first responders move in, right? And then another guy walks in and blows up. We know this is a tactic, right? But if Americans don't understand this as a tactic and don't understand these attackers are going to fight to the death, think about that. So battle's going on. The attacker surrenders, right? He might have the suicide vest. We let our guard down. That man came to die, right? He's going to fight till he dies or you dies. So we can't let our guards down, and they know our weakness.
All right. The Biden administration has spent 4 years telling you that Trump is a threat to democracy, and then he has him in the White House once he wins the election. All of these big tech oligarchs, Trump is a threat to democracy, and then they're traveling to Mar-a-Lago to kiss Trump's butt. Mainstream news media, Joe Scarborough, Trump is the biggest existential threat. Joe Biden is the sharpest I've ever seen him. Now they're all backtracking because they all knew this was a lie. And some of you sadly, or some of your friends, family, sadly bought into it. Meanwhile, there's a real threat that the Biden administration has been allowing to come into our country freely. And that is not just gangsters and criminals from some of these third world countries, but also legitimate spies, China, legitimate terrorists, and from some of these Middle Eastern countries, some of these hot zones, including Al-Qaeda members. But the Biden administration has been telling you that Trump supporters, that Trump himself is the real threat. They've been lying to you. And as a result of that, you get what you saw in New Orleans. This stuff is so frustrating to me. It's unbelievable because you have half of Americans that have been duped and half politicians in Washington, D.C. that try to continue to dupe you because they don't want you to know that their policies could lead to your death. I mean, it's just crazy. All right, now let me just offer this J6, the J6 pipe bomber. Let me offer this. I'll give some last comments on Speaker Mike Reelected. Judge Juan Merchan. I think I spoke to that briefly, but basically sentenced Trump because he wants to be able to call Trump a felon before he literally enters the White House because he's so egotistical. And this stuff is going to be shot down eventually once it goes through an appeals process. But it should have never got to this point. We all knew these cases were brought as lawfare to try to keep Trump out of the White House. They lost. Juan Merchan is doing everything possible to satisfy his own ego and to get that narrative and maybe get his kudos and his accolades from radical leftists in the Democrat Party. But let me share this real quick because this is so important. All right, remember the J6 pipe bomber? Don't you guys think it's weird that the J6 pipe bomber has never been found? It's been literally it'll be 4 years. What is today's date? Today is the 4th, I believe. So it'll be 4 years tomorrow. The J6 pipe bomber has never been found, and they've managed to arrest, I think, 1,600 people that participated in the J6 protest. The vast majority of them that never even entered the Capitol, but were on the grounds by using what's called geofencing, where basically they take, and I don't know how to explain this, perfectly here, but basically they cast a digital net of the people that were on the grounds near the White House, near the Capitol that day attending the protest. They're able to scan their phones, find out who they were, and they could arrest them. And that doesn't even include a lot of the people that entered the building itself, but just were near the Capitol. 1,600 people, and they're still arresting people despite the fact that Trump is coming into office because they just want to torment them. Oh, that attorney, by the way, in charge of that is resigning. He's decided to resign probably about a week from now, right before Trump gets in office, because he's done his work. These people are evil. These people are absolutely disgusting, in my opinion. But just real quick on the J6 pipe bomber, hat tip Julie Kelly and her Substack Declassified. 4 years after the FBI describes an act of domestic terror, the protest at the Capitol on J6 of 2021, federal authorities have not yet solved the most consequential crime of that day, and that is the presence of 2 explosive devices within blocks of the U.S. Capitol. The report was issued by Representatives Barry Loudermilk of Georgia and Thomas Massey of Kentucky. They examined the events of January 6th and the work of the January 6th Select Committee that Liz Cheney was on. Benny Thompson, who got medals of honor, from Joe Biden. I mean, absolutely insane. They should be getting arrest warrants, is what they should be getting. Details how the FBI investigation into the so-called pipe bomber went cold by early 2021. Okay, so I want you to understand, you had a J6 pipe bomber. That would have been the biggest threat possible, right? You had a guy, presumably, because the FBI is out with new information. They say the guy is 5'7". He wore some Nike sneakers that are somewhat rare. At that point in time, I think only 25,000 pair had been sold within the United States in the last 3 or 4 years. So the sneakers were somewhat rare, some type of rare form of Air Max, if you will. And so this particular guy, 5'7", all this kind of stuff, wearing those rare sneakers. Not to mention, if you guys ever saw the video, not only did this guy go and lay the pipe bombs, the video that I did watch, go lay the pipe bomb slow, methodically, sit down on one of the benches and all this kind of stuff. The guy walks to the street, covered with a mask, beanie, all this kind of stuff. Sits on the street in Washington, D.C., looks at his watch. If I recall correctly, talks on his cell phone. Actually, he does talk on his cell phone, waits for a car to pick him up. They can't find that one isolated person, although cameras were all over him, tracking his every move. But 1,600 people that went to Trump's, that were near the Capitol protesting, they found every single one of them by using geofencing. I mean, they were able to use that geofencing, I mean, body after body after body, and they were able to find 1,600 people that they wanted to prosecute. But this guy that they were able to track and watch where he made a call, waited for a car, set the bombs, they can't find him. No, they just put out new information that they need help. They got a $500,000 reward for this J6 pipe bomber. But and then the report comes out and we find out, oh no, the case went cold 4 years ago. 3 months into Biden's administration. Ironically, this is the same time, you guys might remember, that the Wall Street Journal reported that Biden's staff knew definitively by April 2021 this guy was mentally incapable of being the president. So they ran the show. Just a quick refresher. The FBI claimed an individual wearing a hoodie planted the devices near the headquarters of the RNC and outside the headquarters of the DNC on January 5, 2021, between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. The devices, however, were not discovered until 17 hours later. Now, ironically, or coincidentally, that was around the same time that the joint session of Congress convened at 1 p.m. to certify Biden's election. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. So on January 6th, that's when that occurred. That's when they found him. All right. Or at least the devices, that's when they were discovered 17 hours after they had been planted. That was the same time Congress was meeting. It's almost as if somebody was trying to set up something to occur, right? Set up some type of narrative. I don't know. Let's call it a J6 insurrection or something. It's almost like theater was being put into place. So a woman doing her laundry found the first pipe bomb in an alleyway near the RNC headquarters. That was at 12:40 p.m. And then you had a plainclothes Capitol Police officer who I don't believe was involved. I just happen to believe that he actually did find him, who discovered a similar device outside the DNC headquarters at 1:05 p.m. Now, why is this so dangerous? Because Vice President Kamala Harris at the time walked right by, allegedly, this bomb at 11:25 a.m. She was in the DNC. So, mind you, now they had bomb-sniffing dogs. They had FBI agents that couldn't find where these bombs were. And Congress was convening. The vice president was there. Yet somehow they didn't find him. But a lady doing her laundry saw the bomb. Capitol Police officer in plain clothes passing by saw the other one. That's striking, isn't it? A little funny. The latter situation posed an extreme danger, obviously, to Vice President. Bomb sniffing canines couldn't find it. Other FBI agents couldn't find it. Here's what the police chief at the time, the Washington police chief, or U.S. Capitol Police chief, said. This was the guy that Nancy Pelosi fired. He believed the devices were a diversionary tactic. He said, quote, "While law enforcement has not identified the suspect responsible for planting both pipe bombs, the explosive devices played a critical role in how the events of that day unfolded, whether intended to or not. Both pipe bombs acted as diversions, forcing law enforcement to draw resources away from the Capitol." Almost as if somebody wanted the Capitol to be breached. No one has been arrested despite a $500,000 reward. Further, the failure to locate the J6 pipe bomber doesn't add up, considering the extensive investigative tools that the FBI used by the FBI to track down and arrest J6 protesters. And we know that all of these agencies, from the FBI, ATF, U.S. Secret Service, Metropolitan Police Department, ever since Republicans have been back in control of the House and over the committees, they have completely stonewalled Republicans. Isn't that amazing? The FBI has failed to provide any responsive documents. On December 12, 2023, FBI Assistant Director Matthew Fodor briefed the committee on the status of the FBI's pipe bomb investigation. Deputy Assistant Director Fodor's briefing failed to satisfy even the committee's most basic informational needs and dealt exclusively with information already in the public domain. So these people, I mean, just no answers to this stuff whatsoever. The former head of the Washington FBI field office, Stephen D. Antoineau, who led the pipe bomb investigation for nearly 2 years, also appeared to have misled Congress by claiming that cell phone files obtained by the FBI were corrupted. So some of you lefties out there saying, "Oh, see, there you go. They just kind of the FBI, the cell phone files were corrupted, so the FBI weren't able to track that particular phone. This guy must have been a genius. This guy must have known what he was doing." So they said that's what's impeded their investigation, because whatever cell phone this person was using was corrupted. All right. And the cell phone companies told them they were corrupted. That's what the FBI said. The only problem is, once the committees, Republican committee chairs, got a hold of those companies, the major cell carriers confirmed that they did not provide corrupted data to the FBI, and that the FBI never notified them of any issues with accessing the cellular data. In other words, the FBI lied. Stephen D'Antuono should be in prison, and anybody else involved in this cover-up. This is total BS, and we all know it. This is just total BS. The FBI needs to be cleaned up. It needs to happen quick, fast, in a hurry. And I'll share with you just real quick how to do that. Listen, and this, I think I've covered everything. Judge Juan Merchan is out for a pound of flesh against Trump, so he's going to convict him, make him a convicted felon, because Trump technically is not a convicted felon, on January 10th, which is absolutely disgusting in my mind. And it just shows that these people are egotistical, and they're desperate. And it is about the hush money case. Real Clear Politics has it here, and they say Trump calls hush money case rigged, charade after judge sets sentencing date. So like Trump took to social to share his frustration about the judge setting a January 10th sentencing date in his New York hush money case. And remember, the left has been calling Trump a convicted felon. He has not been a convicted felon, but they thought it would work for the election. It failed, and it backfired miserably. But there's even a gag order that remains on Trump. Trump says this illegitimate political attack is nothing but a rigged charade, and he's right. Acting Justice Merchan, who is a radical partisan, just issued another order that is knowingly unlawful and goes against our Constitution, and, if allowed to stand, would be the end of the presidency as we know it. All right, so that's what Trump had to say about it, and he's absolutely right. Merchan has so little respect for the Constitution that he is keeping in place an illegal gag order on me, your president and president-elect, so just so I cannot expose his and his family's disqualifying and illegal conflicts. And his daughter raises money for the Democrat Party. She raised a buttload of money for Biden and for Kamala Harris. She's a DNC fundraiser. And he's donated, which would disqualify him. He's donated to Democrats. Juan Merchan ordered the sentencing for January 10th, rejecting Trump's demand the case be dismissed to accommodate his upcoming presidency. He signaled he is inclined to impose no punishment for his felony conviction. This fall, Trump appealed a partial gag order related to the hush money case, but it was thrown out and remains in place. The New York jury found Trump guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal a hush money payment. Now, just so you remember, there was a non-disclosure agreement, and the reason why there's 34 counts is because Alvin Bragg, in order to try to make the case seem so spectacular and unique, decided, okay, there was one amount that Trump needed to pay back his attorney who actually arranged Michael Cohen at the time, that arranged the non-disclosure agreement. And by the way, you haven't seen him after the election, have you? So there was one total amount. Trump paid him back based upon reimbursements to the attorney. Trump said he didn't even know what the attorney was doing, but that was part of his legal fees. So Trump paid him back in installments. So they're charging Trump for 34 installment payments, 34 felonies. Even if Trump was guilty for a documents mishap, if you will, that would have been a misdemeanor and a slap on the wrist. Just a total scam. Just a total scam. So you got that. Mike Johnson is reelected as speaker. And again, I'll just reiterate, listen, what Republicans want is a return to regular order, 12 appropriation bills, bring them to the light of day, and let Republicans make the spending cuts that we need to get this country back on track fiscally. That's all Chip Roy wanted. And sadly, a bunch of rhinos were calling him, the vast majority of the Republican Party, which are rhinos, were calling him out for it. And what a shame. But Donald Trump did have a conversation with Chip Roy and others, got everybody on board. They expressed their concerns. I'm sure Trump expressed his concerns. We got to be ready day one. I want to be ready day one. They ironed it out. Good to go. Let's get to work. Let's get Trump's appointments confirmed. Let's fight this Islamic terrorist threat, and let's fight this the Chinese threat. Let's fight leftism threat, DEI, and all this crap. The deep state. I mean, we got so much work to do. It's unbelievable. I'm going to give you just close with some quick ways how you can fix the FBI. Stephen Friend, and I encourage you guys to go back and watch the interview that we conducted with him, gave us some great ways to fight back, if you will, if the FBI has to remain in place. And I believe it should be dismantled, and so does former FBI whistleblower Stephen Friend. But you guys, if you saw that podcast, if you haven't, go check it out. He said, if there's one man I would trust, one man that I would trust to give it the old college try to fix the FBI, he said, I would trust Kash Patel. That spoke volumes to me. There was another gentleman that wrote a column. I don't think I have it in front of me, for Daily Signal. He's also a retired FBI agent, and he spoke about his encounter or his dealings with Richard Stout is his name. His daughter was at the Parkland shooting when that occurred. He was one of the first responders. He talked about some of his tips, so I took from both of them. And he's not for dismantling the FBI like Stephen Friend is, but they had some of the same ideas. Stephen Friend has more, and frankly, in my opinion, some better ones. So I'm going to share all of them just real quick. But this is how you fix the FBI. All right, no quota bonuses for catching bad guys. So some of these supervisors, or many of their supervisors, they get bonuses when they catch bad guys. So he talked about how a lot of these guys were willing to go after J6 protesters, right? Because it was such a big deal, made by Nancy Pelosi, made by the left, right? Made by the Democrats in Congress. These guys would get bonuses for catching these FBI, these J6 people. And the goal was to make the problem with J6 look bigger than it was. So instead of just arresting people in D.C., they waited for everybody to travel back home, and then they located them. So they were able to locate them out of state as well, but they can't find that J6 pipe bomber. Isn't that amazing? Pretty amazing. But he said no quota bonuses for that anymore. These people should not get bonuses for catching bad guys. They get paid well enough, and they get benefits for being an FBI agent, an FBI field director, so on, et cetera. Live off of it. All right. No firearms. They must work with local sheriffs. So the FBI shouldn't be armed. They should work with local sheriff departments. And that way, the people that elect their sheriff in their counties, all right, still have a say in the matter. If they don't like the work that the sheriff is doing with the FBI, they can vote. All right. And I think that's one of the best ideas that I've ever heard, frankly. Disarm the FBI and make sure they have to work with the local sheriffs before they arrest anyone. They can do investigative work, but that's it. Fire bad supervisors. This guy in the Daily Signal talked about how when it came to the Parkland shooting, these people, he says, one failure stemmed from an agent and their supervisor in the Jackson, Mississippi FBI office, while another involved a call-in tip that was mishandled by a contract call taker and their supervisor. The contract employee was fired. The Jackson agent was allowed to retire, but both supervisors remained in their positions. You got to fire the supervisors. These are the guys that get the bonuses that Stephen Friend was talking about. You got to fire them too, and that's not happening. So you're keeping bad leadership in place. Move the DC headquarters, move the FBI headquarters out of DC. There's no reason for them to be in DC, or at least so many of them. The vast majority of them exist in field offices in different states and regions. Let them stay there, all right? In counterintelligence apparatus, Stephen Friend talked about this. There's no need for the FBI to be doing counterintelligence. They need to stick with law enforcement. That's what they were commissioned to do before 9/11. They need to go back to that. In all DEI requirement practices. Anybody involved in that, anybody that set up the program should be fired. And frankly, anybody that was hired because of DEI should be fired, because as we've seen in New Orleans, they're incompetent and they should not. They're underqualified for the job. All right. So that's how you would fix the FBI. Guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show, this weekend recap, if you will. And we added a little more information with this Cybertruck explosion. And obviously the speaker fight. Mike Johnson is reelected as speaker. Guys, until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.